The galaxy was burning. The war had dragged on for decades, and every world that joined the fight was swallowed by the same hopeless truth: no one could stop the Dominion. They had fleets larger than nations, weapons that could erase cities in seconds, and machines that never tired. Entire civilizations bent their knees or vanished in fire. The Council of Stars had already whispered the words no one wanted to say. The war was lost. But then, humanity entered the stage. At first, no one believed Earth could change anything. Humans were newcomers, barely a century in space. Their ships looked small compared to the titanic war vessels of the older races. Their colonies were scattered, fragile, and their armies untested. To most of the galaxy, Earth was nothing but a latecomer, a voice too weak to matter. Yet, in the darkness of a broken warfront, a signal spread: human fleets were moving. Not to retreat, not to surrender. They were advancing into the very heart of Dominion territory. It made no sense. To strike the enemy when the rest of the galaxy was falling back was madness. And still, that madness carried a strange weight. There was something in the human voice when their leaders spoke, cold, certain, and unshaken by the fear that crushed others. The first whispers came from the survivors of Krellin Outpost. Dominion warships had surrounded the station, locking it in from every side. The defenders waited for the same end they had seen 100 times before. But then, a human task force appeared. Only 5 ships against a fleet of 40. Had been suicide. The Watchers expected another hopeless slaughter. Instead, they saw rules breaking. The humans did not fight like the galaxy's fleets. They ignored formation. They ignored doctrine. Their ships moved like hunters cutting into the Dominion lines, vanishing in bursts of strange light, reappearing at impossible angles. Weapons fired in rhythms the enemy could not predict. One moment they were silent, the next they unleashed storms of fire that split even the thickest shields. In less than an hour, the Dominion fleet was scattered, their proud warships burning in the void. How? That was the question that spread. How could humans defy the war itself? No one knew the answer. But for the first time in years, the galaxy felt a whisper of something they had forgotten: hope. On the surface of Earth, in deep war rooms hidden under mountains, human commanders studied the chaos. They knew the truth: humanity could not win by fighting the same way the galaxy had always fought. The Dominion was too vast, too strong, too prepared. To win, humanity had to break every rule of war written by those who came before. And so, they did. Where others fought for territory, humans fought for pressure. They struck supply lines, then vanished. Where others protected colonies, humans abandoned them to set traps that swallowed entire fleets. Where others obeyed the codes of battle, humans rewrote them. Using weapons the Council had forbidden, strategies too ruthless for civilized races to consider. Each move was risk, but each risk carried results. The galaxy began to watch closely. Some were horrified, some were silent. Some whispered that humans were no longer fighting the Dominion, they were becoming something worse. But all agreed on one fact: the war was no longer the same. One captured Dominion officer spoke before his execution. Last words were not of loyalty, but of fear. He said, "They are not soldiers, they are predators." And that was only the beginning. The Dominion soon realized humanity was not only a new enemy, but an enemy that shattered the very foundation of their power. Every trap they set, humans escaped. Every strategy they trusted, humans broke. In the ruins of lost battles, Dominion commanders began asking a question that no one dared answer: what are the humans willing to do that the rest of the galaxy will not? The war had been lost. Everyone knew it. But then came Earth, rewriting every law, every line, every truth of conflict. And with each victory, a storm grew. The galaxy would soon learn that when humanity fought with no limits, not even the Dominion's endless empire could stand, and the true war was only beginning. The Dominion was angry. For centuries, no species had dared challenge their power, and now a young world called Earth had humiliated them. Reports from their admirals told the same story: human fleets striking from shadows, vanishing before counterattack, turning victories into shame. To the Dominion, this was not war, it was insult. So they planned a lesson on the broken edges of the war front. The Dominion gathered one of their strongest armadas. Hundreds of warships, each bristling with weapons, moved like a tide toward human colony called Asterion. Colony was small, its defenses weak, its population only a few million. To the Dominion, it was the perfect place to break human spirit. They would crush the settlement, burn the skies, and show the galaxy that Earth was powerless before true might. The Council of Stars heard the news and sighed. They pitied humanity. No one could stop such a fleet. Most believed Earth would retreat, abandoning the colony like others had abandoned worlds before. That was the sensible move. That was survival. But humanity did not retreat. As the Dominion ships closed in, their scouts reported something strange. Colony's evacuation had already finished. Civilian transports had gone silent. The surface seemed empty, as if the humans had left, yet their ships had not withdrawn. Instead, a small group of human warships lingered in the system, waiting. It was madness. 10 ships against hundreds. The Dominion admiral laughed. He ordered his fleet forward. But the laughter stopped when the stars themselves shifted. From the edge of the system, hidden behind the curve of planets and moons, something stirred. Not ships, not fleets, but traps. Fields of mines that cloaked themselves from sensors. Satellites armed with stolen Dominion technology. Stations disguised as drifting debris, each one carrying weapons forbidden by the Council. Entire system was ablade, waiting to strike. The human ships did not meet the Dominion in open battle. Instead, they lured them in. They moved slow. Weak, as if frightened prey, the Dominion chased. And then the stars exploded. Mines tore through the front line. Ambush fire rained from unexpected angles. The void filled with detonations as Dominion warships burned one after another. The admiral shouted orders, demanding his ships regroup, but the battlefield itself betrayed him. His own fleet was blind, cut off, trapped in a maze designed by human hands. It was not a battle, it was a hunt, and the humans hunted well. The few survivors who escaped carried stories that shook the galaxy. They said humans had abandoned mercy. They used weapons that melted armor, devices that scrambled minds, tricks no other race dared imagine. But the most terrifying part was not the weapons. It was the silence. The humans fought without pride, without joy, without hesitation. Every strike was cold, precise, and final. The Council of Stars gathered in secret chambers. Some called humans heroes. Others called them monsters. But all agreed, this was no longer the same war. It had become something new, something that followed. No rules. On Earth, leaders studied the reports. They knew the truth: the Dominion could always build more ships, more fleets, more armies. If humanity fought by old rules, they would drown. But by breaking those rules, they forced the Dominion to bleed. And the more the Dominion bled, the more the galaxy watched. Whispers spread. Smaller civilizations, long, crushed under Dominion boots, began to stir. They asked themselves questions they never dared ask before. If humans could fight, why couldn't they? The Dominion saw the danger. Rebellion was spreading. Rebellion was possible. And so they swore. An oath. Humanity would not simply be destroyed. They would be erased. Their worlds would be burned. Their name would vanish from history. Yet even as the Dominion prepared their next strike, quiet truth was forming in the shadows. Humanity had already changed the war in the silence after. The Asterion battle, a single human captain spoke words that echoed through secret channels, through encrypted messages, through the hearts of all who listened. He said, "We will not fight for survival. We will fight until they fear the dark the way they made us fear it." And with those words, the galaxy understood humanity was not just breaking rules. Humanity was writing a new kind of war. The Dominion thought the battle for Asterion would break Earth. Instead, it broke the illusion that the war was already lost. But deep inside the Dominion, something darker stirred. For if humanity had shattered the rules of war, then the Dominion would answer by shattering the rules of existence itself, and the galaxy held its breath. The Dominion did not forget Asterion. The humiliation burned deeper than the losses. An empire built on fear could not allow such shame to spread. For the first time in centuries, they summoned their high strategists, minds that had crushed countless rebellions. Their command was clear: destroy humanity, no matter the cost. The plan was merciless. Instead of striking human fleets, they would strike Earth itself. If they erased the homeworld, all colonies would collapse. Every race in the galaxy agreed it was impossible to defend against what the Dominion was preparing. They had built a weapon called Eclipse, a fortress ship so large that entire moons had been broken apart to construct it. Its cannons could shatter continents. Its engines could drag an army across the stars. It was meant to be the final word in war. When whispers of Eclipse reached the Council of Stars, silence fell. No one believed humans could face such power. Dominion had built many horrors before, but this one was different. Eclipse was not just a weapon. It was a message: surrender or vanish. But humans did not surrender. Deep inside, hidden bunkers beneath Earth. Commanders studied the reports. They saw the numbers, the scale, the firepower. Every calculation said the same thing: Eclipse could not be destroyed by force. It was too big, too strong, too well protected. A normal fleet would die before it even scratched its armor. The galaxy expected humanity to despair. Instead, the humans did something the Dominion had never seen. They smiled. The plan they formed was madness. Not to fight Eclipse in open battle, not to resist its approach. Instead, to break the Dominion's pride using their own creation. Humanity would not destroy Eclipse. They would steal it. When the operation began, the galaxy thought it was suicide. Human ships moved like shadows, avoiding detection, slipping through patrol lines. They did not send their largest fleet. They sent a handful of specialist pilots, engineers, saboteurs. Each carried tools no other species would dare use: virus code that could eat an enemy's command system, bombs disguised as broken satellites, cloaking fields that used stolen Dominion tech twisted into something new. For weeks, nothing was heard. Some believed the humans had failed, swallowed by the abyss. The Dominion themselves grew impatient, preparing to launch Eclipse against Earth. But then, one night across the stars, Dominion sensors lit up with confusion. The fortress ship had vanished. It was not destroyed. It was gone. The truth was worse than destruction. Humans had infiltrated Eclipse, taken its systems, and cut it free from Dominion control. An empire's greatest weapon had been stolen in silence. The galaxy trembled. For the Dominion, it was unthinkable. For the Council of Stars, it was impossible. But for humanity, it was only the next step. They had broken another rule. Where others feared enemy power, humans had turned that power into their own. When Eclipse reappeared, it was not flying the Dominion's flag, it carried Earth's. The first use of Eclipse under human control shook the galaxy to its core. A Dominion fleet of 200 ships closed in to retake their prize. They never returned. The fortress ship unleashed storms of energy, tearing warships apart like paper, moving with precision that should have been impossible for something so large. Survivors whispered of humans standing at its command bridge, eyes cold, voices steady, using the enemy's pride as a blade against them. From that day, the galaxy began to fear Earth not only for their strange tactics, but for their daring. Humanity had proven that nothing was untouchable, no weapon safe, no fortress beyond reach. The rules of war were shattered further than ever before. The Dominion raged. They promised revenge. They swore humanity would drown in blood. But beneath their anger was something more dangerous: fear. Because if humans could steal Eclipse, what else could they do? In secret chambers, council members whispered that Earth was becoming the one thing the galaxy had never seen before: a predator that hunted not with strength, but with imagination. They did not fight by numbers, but by rewriting the very logic of battle, and as the stars turned cold, a truth settled like a shadow over every world: The war was no longer about survival. It was about who would control the shape of the future. The Dominion had thought themselves eternal. But now, for the first time, they faced an enemy that could twist their own power against them. Humanity had stolen their nightmare, and with Eclipse, under Earth's command, the war had only grown darker. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. A single human-controlled fortress ship, Eclipse, drifted across the stars like a shadow of judgment. Wherever it appeared, Dominion fleets scattered. Entire sectors whispered in fear. The Dominion had built Eclipse to be their symbol of power. But now it was Earth's weapon, Earth's banner, Earth's message to the galaxy. Nothing you build is safe from us, but the humans knew the truth. Eclipse alone could not win the war. It was powerful, yes, but the Dominion's empire stretched across thousands of systems. For every fleet Eclipse destroyed, another was waiting. Humanity had to do more than fight battles. It had to break the Dominion's control over the galaxy. And so, they targeted the Dominion's greatest strength, fear. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled through terror. Planets obeyed not because they loved the Empire, but because they feared its punishment. If that fear was broken, if worlds began to rise, the Dominion would collapse from within. The humans understood this. They did not just fight in space. They carried the war into the minds of the oppressed. It began with whispers. Dominion outposts destroyed in silence. Human symbols appearing on captured stations. Messages broadcast across hidden channels promising freedom, promising that the Dominion was not invincible. And each time Eclipse struck, humanity made sure the galaxy saw it. Fleets were not just defeated, they were humiliated, broken before watching eyes. The effect was a storm. On worlds long chained by Dominion governors, uprisings began. Small at first, weak, easily crushed. But more followed, spreading like fire. Rebellions rose not because they thought they could win, but because they believed at last that someone else was fighting too. The Dominion reacted with rage. They unleashed punishments beyond cruelty. Entire cities burned, populations were erased. The more they punished, the more resistance spread, because now the galaxy had a symbol. Humanity, the newcomers, the rule breakers, the predators, who refused to bow. In the Council of Stars, arguments grew fierce. Some feared humanity more than the Dominion, whispering that Earth would become a tyrant of its own. Others believed humans were the only chance left, the only species willing to do what the rest could not. But all agreed on one thing: the balance of the war had changed forever. On the bridge of Eclipse, human commanders spoke in cold voices. They knew rebellions would die without support, so they armed them. They smuggled weapons, trained fighters, sent ships in secret to aid uprisings. They used Dominion supply routes not only to starve the Empire, but to feed its enemies. The Dominion spread fear, humans spread fire, and then came the moment that shocked even their allies. A captured Dominion transmission revealed that the Empire was planning to wipe out the world of Trassel, home to billions of slaves. The plan was clear: burn the planet, erase the rebellion, and send a message to the galaxy that resistance was useless. The Council urged humanity not to interfere. The risk was too great, they said. Saving Trassel meant facing the largest Dominion fleet ever gathered. It was suicide. But humanity did not listen. When the Dominion fleet arrived at Trassel, they expected terror. Instead, they found Eclipse waiting. Behind it, not hundreds, but thousands of small human ships transports, freighters, even mining. Craft each converted into weapons of war. A desperate fleet built from everything humanity could scrape together. The Dominion laughed at first. Their warships were titans, their numbers overwhelming. But then the battle began, and once again, the rules shattered. The humans did not fight to win. They fought to hold, to delay, to bleed the enemy long enough for Trassel's people to escape. They rammed their own ships into Dominion cruisers, turned freighters into firebombs, detonated engines in suicidal charges. Eclipse roared like a dying star, its weapons tearing holes in the enemy's line, shielding the evacuation. It was chaos. It was madness. It was human war. By the time the Dominion finally broke through, It was too late. Millions had escaped. Trassel lived. The fleet was lost, the battlefield filled with burning wrecks. But the message had already spread across the stars. Humanity would not let the Dominion erase a world. Not now, not ever. The price was heavy. Thousands of human lives were gone, entire ships lost forever. Yet in the ashes of Trassel, the galaxy saw something terrifying and beautiful. The humans were not fighting for themselves alone. They were fighting for everyone, and that was the one thing the Dominion had never faced before: an enemy who bled. Not just for survival, but for the freedom of others. The war was no longer about Earth. It was about the galaxy. Humanity had just lit a fire that the Dominion could not put out. The Dominion was wounded but not broken. Trassel had escaped their fire, rebellions were spreading, and their pride was bleeding. Yet the Empire was vast, older than memory, and its strength seemed endless. They had lost battles before, but never the war. It would not allow humanity to be the first. And so, the Dominion turned to something the galaxy had long whispered about, but never seen a weapon hidden, even from their own people. Deep in the black between stars and a fortress no map carried, they awoke the architects. The architects were not soldiers. They were not leaders. They were mind-schooled, ancient, built of flesh and machine. Legends claimed they were the ones who first gave the Dominion its empire, creators of strategies that crushed civilizations in hours. They had been locked away because the galaxy itself had begged for it. Even the Dominion feared them. But now, desperate, they were released. The architects studied humanity with eyes that saw patterns in chaos. They did not rage. They did not fear, they calculated. And their judgment was simple. Humans could not be beaten by strength. They could only be beaten by turning their own nature against them. Soon, strange things began to happen on the front. Human fleets arrived at battle zones, only to find empty space. Colonies received warnings of attacks that never came. Dominion transmissions reached Earth's allies, filled with twisted truths and clever lies. Mistrust spread. Allies began to whisper, could humans be setting traps for them as well? Could Earth be planning not to save the galaxy, but to rule? It was the oldest Dominion trick: divide and weaken. But with the architects' hands, it became a nightmare. Human commanders felt the pressure. Their fleets were stretched thin, chasing threats that dissolved into shadows. Rebellions began to fall when promised support never arrived. Eclipse itself was caught in endless pursuit, never able to strike the killing blow. Humanity was fighting. A ghost. And then came the worst blow of all. The Dominion announced they had captured a human fleet. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of soldiers. They displayed their faces across the galaxy, tortured, broken, forced to confess lies. That Earth was building its own empire, that humanity planned to replace the Dominion with a rule just as cruel. Many across the stars believed it. Some rebellions went silent. Some worlds turned away from Earth. For the first time, humanity felt the war slipping through their hands. Victory no longer came from broken fleets, but from broken trust. But humans did not despair. They adapted. In the darkness of a hidden war room, human leaders made a choice. If the Dominion was using lies, then humanity would use truth, but not the gentle truth the Council of Stars trusted. They would show the galaxy the raw, brutal face of the Dominion. They would make every world see what the Empire truly was. The plan was dangerous, maybe even suicidal. A team of human operatives, carried by stolen Dominion transports, slipped into the heart of the Empire itself, into the core worlds. Their mission was not to destroy, but to reveal. No. To capture the Dominion's darkest secrets, their camps, their slaughterhouses, their hidden laboratories where entire species had been broken and reshaped. The team vanished for weeks. The Council believed them dead. Even some humans gave up hope. But then, in one night of fire, our transmissions broke through. Images, recordings, proof. Billions of voices across the galaxy saw the Empire's crimes. It's unfiltered, undeniable. The effect was like thunder. Whole civilizations that had bent. In silence rose in anger. Dominion tried to deny, tried to erase the evidence, but it was too late. The truth was everywhere, and humanity struck at the same moment. Fleets that had seemed lost reappeared in ambush. Clips returned from the shadows, tearing open a Dominion shipyard. Rebellions surged, stronger than ever. The architects had predicted every move except this. They had not understood one thing about humans. Their war was not built on fear, or lies, or control. It was built on rage, on the refusal to kneel, on the will to burn everything before surrendering. The Dominion had released their greatest minds, their cruelest weapon of strategy. But against humanity's chaos, even perfect logic began to crack, and in the silence after the battles, whispers spread through Dominion ranks, not of eclipse, not of fleets, but of the one truth every soldier began to feel in their bones: humans would rather die than lose. And how do you defeat an enemy who does not fear death? The Dominion did not know the answer, not yet. The Dominion was bleeding, but it refused to fall. The architects had failed to break humanity's will, yet they had left scars. Allies were cautious, rebellions uncertain, and the war dragged on. The Empire still had numbers, still had worlds, still had endless legions to throw into the fire. Humanity had hurt the Dominion, yes, but hurting was not enough. The Empire had to be broken completely, and so the humans prepared for their most dangerous move. Yet in secret halls beneath Earth's surface, leaders spoke in hushed voices. The Dominion's empire stretched like a net across the galaxy, each world bound by supply lines, command nodes, and communication networks. To defeat them in battle after battle would take centuries. Humanity did not have centuries. Their colonies were thin, their resources strained. A war of endurance meant death, but a war of collapse that was possible. The humans planned to strike not at fleets, but at the Empire's spine. If they could cut its networks, destroy its centers of control, and leave its fleets blind and leaderless, the Dominion would fracture from within. It was not war in the traditional sense. It was assassination on the scale of galaxies. The operation was called Ghostfire. It began quietly. Human ships moved not in great fleets, but in dozens of small strike groups. Each carried operatives trained to vanish into the dark, to slip into Dominion strongholds, to dismantle systems piece by piece. Communications towers burned. Supply hubs went silent. Governors disappeared. What seemed like accidents at first soon became a pattern, an empire unraveling in the shadows. The Dominion fought back with fury. They tightened their grip on their worlds, unleashed executions, silenced uprisings with oceans of blood. But their cruelty only made humanity's fire spread faster. Worlds long chained by fear began to see a chance. They rose, armed with smuggled human weapons, and struck at their masters. Then, humanity pushed the blade deeper. Eclipse emerged from hiding, not to fight fleets, but to lead Ghostfire into the very core of the Empire. Its weapons carved open command centers. Its presence turned rebellions into wars. Dominion admirals, who once commanded hundreds of ships, suddenly found themselves cut off, their orders lost, their fleets stranded and leaderless. The galaxy watched in awe. They had thought humanity reckless, suicidal, too new to understand war. But now they saw the truth. Earth was not fighting to win battles. Earth was fighting to end the war itself. Yet such daring carried a cost. The Dominion, cornered and desperate, unleashed weapons the galaxy had not seen in ages. Black storms that erased entire star systems. Plagues engineered to burn through colonies in weeks. Poisoned suns, shattered moons, slaughtered billions in their madness to break humanity's grip. Every time the humans struck, the Empire answered with horrors, and humanity did not turn away. At the Battle of Red Halo, where a Dominion fleet detonated a star to destroy its own rebelling world, human ships refused to retreat. They fought in the collapsing system, engines burning as stars ripped apart around them, holding the enemy long enough for survivors to escape. It was not victory. It was sacrifice. But the galaxy saw it, and the galaxy remembered. That was the difference, where the Dominion ruled by fear, humanity led by sacrifice. Where the Empire demanded silence, humans gave their lives so others could speak. And slowly the galaxy began to believe. The architects calculated again and again, but their logic failed. For every fleet destroyed, more rebels rose. For every world burned, 10 more whispered Earth's name. Humanity was no longer just a species. It was an idea. And ideas could not be killed. Still, in the dark heart of the Dominion, preparations continued. The architects had one last design, one final weapon to end this chaos. They knew humanity's strength was not ships or numbers, it was spirit. If they could break that spirit, the rest would fall. And so, as ghost fire spread like a plague through the Empire, the Dominion set their final trap. A strike so cruel, so devastating, that even humanity might lose the will to fight. The galaxy held its breath. The end was coming, whether for the Dominion or for Earth, none could say. In the deep void of space, the war dragged on with no clear end. Both sides were bleeding, but humanity bled more. Supply lines were shattered, colonies burned, and fleets were scattered across ruined star systems. Yet still they refused to surrender. The galaxy began to whisper that humans were not fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to prove a point. The alien coalition had numbers, technology, and centuries of experience in war. They had crushed empires greater than Earth before, but humans kept rising from the ashes, breaking every rule of war, fighting in ways no strategist could predict. It was not bravery alone that terrified the enemy, it was the way humans bent reality itself, refusing to play by the galaxy's rules. On the front lines, Admiral Kalen of the Xyrix fleet reviewed reports with growing unease. His fleets had destroyed human carriers 3 times over, yet somehow, those same carriers returned with new weapons welded onto their broken hulls. Dead fleets reappeared, rebuilt faster than anyone thought possible. The humans had started to steal the enemy's wreckage, turning alien war machines into their own weapons. Whispers spread through alien command councils. Humans were not just resisting, they were learning, adapting, becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Every defeat became a lesson, every loss a forge. The most frightening moment came when a coalition fleet intercepted a human convoy near the Draven Rift. Expecting easy prey, the aliens moved in only to discover the convoy was bait. Hidden inside a cluster of shattered moons, human warships emerged, firing weapons that should not have existed. They had fused alien plasma tech with their own kinetic cannons, creating hybrid weapons that bypassed shields entirely. The convoy was destroyed, but so was the alien fleet. And worse, survivors reported something chilling. Human soldiers did not just kill, they captured. They dragged alien commanders alive into their ships, interrogated them, and released just enough survivors to spread fear. Now, rumors spread faster than orders. Entire fleets hesitated to face humans. Veterans spoke of human war chants broadcast before battles, strange coded signals that seemed to shake morale even before the first shot. Others whispered of ghost fleets human ships thought destroyed, that reappeared in critical battles, carrying black flags instead of Earth's emblem. The coalition leaders called it psychological warfare. But the soldiers had a different name for it: the breaking of the rules. Every civilization fought war with honor codes, limitations, rules that defined what was acceptable. Humans ignored all of them. They sabotaged food supplies. They faked surrenders only to strike again. They weaponized the corpses of their own ships, turning them into explosive traps. The galaxy called them desperate. Soldiers who faced them called them demons. And yet behind the horror was something even worse. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were beginning to win. Admiral Kalen sat in silence as the latest reports arrived. 5 coalition fleets had been lost in a single week. Supply depots burned, key strongholds shattered. For the first time, the Alien War Council admitted what they had refused to say aloud. The war was slipping away, and it was not because of superior numbers, or technology, or strategy. It was because humanity had shattered every rule of war, and once the rules were gone, no one in the galaxy knew how to stop them. The battlefield was silent after the storm. Space, once filled with burning wrecks, drifting debris, and screams carried through broken comms now floated like a graveyard. Humanity's fleet held position, their battered hulls glowing in the faint light of dying stars. Against all odds, against every rule of war written by the galaxy, they had stood. But the war was not over. The Council fleet was regrouping on the far edge of the system. The enemy still outnumbered humanity 5-1. Logic said humanity should have been destroyed long ago, but logic no longer applied. Humanity had broken it. Admiral Reyes looked at the map projected before her. Every ship, every surviving fighter, every missile, every piece of salvage had been pulled into the new strategy. She knew this was the final move. If they failed now, there would be no second chance. Earth, Mars, and every colony would be burned. Status of the enemy? She asked. Her officers answered in clipped voices, tired but sharp. The Council was reforming lines, but their formations were stiff, predictable, still fought by their ancient codes, their sacred rules of war. Reyes whispered to herself, they still believe the rules matter. Humanity knew better. The fleet moved. Instead of holding defensive lines, instead of keeping their fleets tight, human ships scattered like wolves breaking a herd. Small groups dove into enemy gaps, tearing at weak points, then vanishing before retaliation could land. Broken frigates were turned into bombs. Drones carried hacked codes that confused the enemy's targeting systems. Even the wrecks of fallen ships were pulled into the fight, remote-controlled to ram enemy carriers. It was war without honor, without restraint. War designed only to win. On the Council flagship, panic spread. Their commanders shouted about violations of the sacred order, about how humans refuse to fight properly. Their comms filled with disbelief. Barbarians, one alien captain spat. They fight like predators, not soldiers. But one voice, quiet and shaken, answered back, no, they fight like survivors.
Hours passed.
The Council fleet crumbled. Ship after ship was consumed in fire. Their formations collapsed, their rules betrayed them. For every human ship destroyed, 3 Council ships burned with it. Humanity's ferocity spread like wildfire, and then came the moment that shook the galaxy, the human flagship. Battered and cracked, rammed straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Shields screamed, armor tore, and fire lit the void. But inside that chaos, humanity's last secret weapon ignited a chain reaction of captured antimatter cores, linked together and detonated in perfect sequence. The explosion ripped the center of the Council armada apart. Dozens of capital ships vanished in seconds. The shockwave scattered the rest. When the light faded, silence returned once more. Reyes stood on her bridge, breathing heavy, staring at the impossible truth. The Council fleet, the greatest war machine the galaxy had ever built, was broken. A voice came through the comms, weak but clear. They won. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than light. For the first time in history, the Council had been defeated. Their rules, their traditions, their belief in eternal control shattered. And humanity, the youngest and weakest of species, had done it. Some called it madness, others called it genius. But all understood one truth: the galaxy would never be the same, because humanity had proven something terrifying. They had proven that war did not need rules. They had proven that survival meant doing whatever it took. And now, every empire, every race, every council member looked at Earth with new eyes, fearful eyes, eyes that saw not just a stubborn species, but a force that could not be bound by anyone's chains. Admiral Reyes, her body trembling from exhaustion, gave the last order of the war. Signal to all fleets: humanity stands, and we will never bow again. The surviving ships lit their engines. Across the black sea of stars, the wreckage of countless battles floated, a reminder of what had been lost, and what had been gained. The war had been decided not by numbers, not by technology, not by rules. It had been decided by will. Human will. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. The war was already lost. The day humanity chose to shatter every rule.